Hello everyone, how's it going? My name is Celoras and welcome to my first ever informational video about Shadow Priest and Wrath of the Lich King Classic. I hope you enjoy it, and if you want to watch a specific point of the video, then there are the timestamps in the description below, as well as chapters in the video that you can seek across. I hope you find it informational, and let's get started. So I'm going to start off with Warcraft Logs and a little bit about it and parsing and all that. So as you can see here, this is my character and its ranks and all that. And I'm not really here to brag about, my parsing. I'm only wanting to bring you here to talk about comparing yourselves with other top parsers within speedruns, people in your realm, all that. So one of the biggest factors, as you can see here, between, people wanting to parse and people who don't really want to parse or whatever, is item level. Obviously, getting more gear and closer to BiS you get, the more damage you're going to do, just naturally, right? That's how the game works. But another factor is boss kill times and how fast you kill the boss, The faster you kill the boss, the more DPS you're going to get in, because, if you think about burst windows with Lust and then averaging out a burst window with, a long drawn out fight where, cooldowns aren't really used and all that, it's going to bring down your DPS. So as you can see here, my fastest forward Marrowgar is 228, Deathwhisper 329, Saurfang 314, etc. Now if you look at the top guy here, or any of these three guys above me or anyone below me, you can see that the fastest kill here is 207. That's 20 seconds faster than mine. And then Deathbringer Saurfang is 243. That's almost like 30 seconds faster than mine. And this really comes down to, does your raid completely main stack and want to get the fastest kill times possible so everyone can do parse really well, or does your guild do splits and your splits is filled with ults who aren't very geared, we're going to do lower DPS and make the kill time go slower, making your DPS a little slower. And you're going to have to think about all these factors and how much you really care or want to parse. And another thing is, does your raid just want to get in and get out, get the splits done, get the gear, or do you want to be in there and your goal's main focus is parsing? So November 7th, my last raid, we were in there for 4 hours. We took a little bit to kill Lich King. But there's some people in there who are in there for 10 hours. Their main focus is just to do parsing and get number one on the website. And obviously number one would be cool, but it's not my main focus. I'm not super stressing about it. And I'm in there for half these people, and they do all sorts of things to get the parse, and I just kind of go with the flow. If I get the parse, awesome. If I don't, whatever. But people who are parse oriented, they will intentionally wipe over and over and over again just so they get this perfect parse. So you have to kind of think about if you're just going with the flow, one-shotting bosses just to get in there and get out, get the gear, or if you're in there to intentionally parse. You can kind of think like, oh, I'm just going with the flow, and I did really good DPS, and it was pretty close to this guy who's been in there for 2 hours on this one boss. So you can kind of say like, oh, he's just trying to get lucky, and even though I didn't get very lucky or whatever, my DPS is still pretty good. You can think about those kind of factors. And so yeah, I said kill times, item level, and whether your guild has splits, or if it's parse oriented and you're in there for hours and hours, or if you just have one run. Your guild is only doing one run with all mains. If you're not doing splits, then any main run is probably going to be better. You have to kind of think of your average item level of the raid too. Like the average item level of splits in my guild, Overclock, is usually a bit lower than those people who main stack and have a bunch of 270 item level people. While sometimes maybe in our splits we have some people who didn't really gear up their characters, and our average item level is only like 259 or 260 or 261, while these people are 268 or something. That's something to think about. And it's kind of just going to be a big problem early on in this ICC phase, pretty much any phase in WoW. Once it goes on longer, people get more gears, everything's going to average out. But right now it's kind of, extreme in both ends, where people are intentionally gearing themselves or specific people like crazy just to get a parse. And, later on, everyone later down the line is going to have the gear and, be evened out. And you can kind of see the real competition there. So yeah, so the next thing I want to show you is my UI and my weak Rs and all that kind of stuff. So also my gear. You can see here I'm pretty geared, 269, but I'm not quite as geared as some of the people I just showed, like 275. They're missing one or two pieces, right? I did get very lucky though and got the Lich King mace the very first day. I was very lucky enough to get it, and the Loot Council 4 gave it to me. So as you can see here, I have the really good mace, the best offhand. I'm still stuck with this wand though. I've been trying to get the ICC 10-man wands, but they just don't drop. I haven't even seen a single wand drop in 25-man heroic from Rotface. I got Spyglass, DFO, good ring. Plaguebringer Staying Pants got that day one. No one else wanted it. I just got this belt. Pretty good gear. Pretty good gear. Another thing I want to kind of go over is gem prioritization. So gear is really well itemized this last tier, as it kind of is every last tier of each expansion. They kind of make the gear a little weak early on, and then just itemize it really well towards every class. So as far as gemming goes, if it's got a spell power meta bonus, you're almost always going to want to go for it, except if it's like blue gems right here. Purified Dreadstone is good, but you don't want to go for it if it's only like 5 spell power, as you can see here. On my pants, I went for red, which is Rune Cardinal Ruby, Purified Dreadstone Blue, and Reckless Ametrine to get the 9 spell power bonus. 9 spell power bonus is pretty good. Like I said, 5 is pretty weak. If it's 7, like it was for a couple items, even right here, you're going to want to go for it. With yellow, Reckless Ametrine and Rune Cardinal Ruby. So you're pretty much always going to want to try to get that meta bonus, except if it's 5 spell power on like a blue socket or something like that. Even in the ring, it's pretty good. Haste becomes really, really, really valuable. It was valuable before, but really valuable in ACC because of our 4-set, and trying to get as much haste as we can, and spell power is really good, which brings me to my next point. Stat prioritization. So obviously you want to be hit capped. Hit cap is 289 if you're looking at your character sheet right here. That's 11%. We get 3% from our talent, and 3% from the hit debuff on the boss. So you're gonna want to get hit capped, because that's, if you miss your spell, that's more DPS loss than anything else. Spell power is, if you play retail, spell power is basically intellect. The more intellect or spell power you have, I'm not going to confuse it here in classic, but the more spell power you have only is what's going to determine how powerful it's going to hit. And the next secondary stat is haste. I've always loved haste as Shadow Priest, even if in earlier phases it was a little close to crit, but especially with our 4-set now, we're going to want a lot of haste. A lot. And we actually get, as you can see here, I have 1200 haste because of how much gear I have, and now I'm just going to get even more closer to BiS I get as well. And crit is right after haste, so it goes hit, spell power, haste, and then crit. Crit is still really good, but it's not quite as good as haste because, like I said, the faster we cast Mind Flay, the faster our dots tick, because our dots are hasted, except Shower of Pain. The more damage we're going to do, obviously the faster shit goes, more damage it's going to do. But crit is also really good, and since items are really well itemized in ACC with a lot of items having crit and haste, crit becomes really good because they're on most pieces anyways. And after that it goes Spirit, which with our talent down here we get a bit more spell power from Spirit, but we don't want to super prio it at all. It's just kind of there on a piece if it's there. And then Intellect and MP5 are Intellect you just passively get on pieces for mana. MP5, dog shit, you don't want as a DPS, especially Shadow Priest or whatever. So on to my weak Rs. I personally play with very little weak Rs. You might see a lot of other people play with a bunch of shit on their screen, and I just see it all as clutter. I have very minimal weak Rs. So when you can see here, it just tells me when I don't have on Inner Fire or Vampiric Embrace inside a raid or a dungeon. I don't do it in the open world because then it would just be annoying. I have my dot trackers down here. Let me targets. So I have Shadow Word Pain dot tracker, DP dot tracker, VT dot tracker, and this is just to track what dots are on my target to see when they're going to expire, etc. And then I have button glows. So when my gloves are ready in combat, I'll do a little demonstration here. I'm going to enter combat. My gloves are ready. They're going to glow green, so they know they're ready. I could do the same with Berserk Ring, but it's a 3-minute cooldown, and usually I remember by that time. Gloves are a little more faster paced, and I need to press it. Sometimes I could forget if I'm doing a mechanic or whatever. So I'm going to put up my dots. So as you can see here, I just, I'm not quite worrying about the rotation right here. I'm just showing my dots. Another thing about Shadow Priest is, how fast your reaction time is. So I'll do a real rotation in a second, but, I'll show on the screen that Mind Flay delay, which is how fast you cast a spell after Mind Flay, is really important. And I think that's what makes or break a lot of Shadow Priests in how fast they can react to after a Mind Flay cast. And, if I usually get around 50 MS or lower, or maybe a little higher, there's some people who get, over 100, over 200, over 300. That's just pure DPS loss. You can even put it in the Shadow Priest sim settings, how much Mind Flay latency you have. You put in 0, for example, that's going to be, perfect robot play. Put in 100, you're going to see a couple hundred DPS loss. So, you're going to want to, react as fast as possible after your spells. So I'm going to do a little bit of demonstration right here. I'm going to open up with Shadow Fiend, pop some dots. So I have this weak guard here that tells me my delay on some, after you cast a Mind Flay. I'm doing kind of bad here, so I'm kind of talking, but I'm getting some perfects right here, which means, there's no delay between casting your Mind Flay and your next spell. So another big thing is your cast bar. Does your cast bar show your ticks? Mine does, and I'm using the LVUI cast bar. I think it's really important to get adequated with your cast bar and get comfortable with it to see when your ticks happen and when you should press your buttons. It kind of sounds kind of simple, but it's just practice, practice, practice. You can see here that I'm getting pretty perfect here, but it's not reliable to test this in an open world, because in an instance there's a little bit more delay. I'm not quite sure what it is, but when you're in the open world, there is almost no delay, and you can get perfects pretty consistently, kind of like I am. But that's really difficult in a raid because your spell effect visuals and raid boss mechanics go on, etc., etc. So as you see, I'm not doing the best. I missed some Mind Flay ticks, not very focused on the rotation, but like I said, it's very important to get your reaction time down. So let's go back to my UI for a little bit. So as you see, you saw the dot trackers, and then you saw some button glow with the gloves and all that. So I do have another one right here that I thought was kind of interesting. I made it in TLGC. It shows when my Shadow Fiend isn't lusted when I have it out. So it's kind of just like to know during your fight whether or not your Shadow Fiend got lusted, and if you get tilted or not. It's kind of like a tilt weak guard. Oh shit, my Shadow Fiend didn't get lusted because I popped it too late, or lust was too early, or whatever. Now my DPS can be a little lower. I don't need the weak guard, but I kind of just like to know it. So another thing I want to talk about is talents. So right now I'm running, so I have 4 set, right? So I'm not running the Mind Blast. So, just typical 4 set with talent build. But something I'm doing is I'm putting, another point in Focused Mind. So 5 points are originally here. So I'm putting the other 5 in, 2 for improved VE, which kind of means that I can just stand in more shit and heal myself through it, because Shadow Priests already take 15% reduced damage through Shadow Form. And making yourself heal for, down here if you look, 25% of the damage you do. That kind of makes you invincible to a lot of mechanics. Not every mechanic, but you don't have to worry as much about popping personals or whatever. I put another point in Focus Mind for mana cost reduction, because I found that when I'm not casting Mind Blast, you're not giving yourself replenishment. So you're not getting a lot of mana return, so you kind of want more mana reduction. And then down here, it's kind of usual. And having 2 out of 2 improved Shadow Form, especially in ICC, is very important. And I put the other 2 points in Disc Tree to get 1 point in Mental Agility, so 1 here, 1 here. So to reduce the mana cost of my spells even more. So basically my Devouring Plague, my Shadow Word Pain if I have to multi-dot, etc. That will save some mana, especially on a fight like Lich King where it's 15 minutes long or whatever. Another build I wanted to talk to you about is Enlightenment, and I'll put it on the screen, but I don't have it in my talent build right now. That, you know, that's what it is. You go down to you go to like halfway down the disc tree and get 4% increased spirit and 4% spell haste along with 4% flat damage, but you lose Dispersion, Twisted Faith, which makes your spirit go into spell power, and you also lose a point in improved shadow form along with pain and suffering. You lose 2 points out of that. So this build is strictly just for parsing. If your guild is parse oriented, you want to run this build. But if you're in a speed run or you're just in splits, you're just going for consistency, I don't think it's very good. But that being said, near BiS, it's about 200 plus DPS increase. And that's pretty big if you run the Enlightenment build. So the main gripe I have with it is on bosses like Festergut, Blood Queen, Sindragosa, if you only have 1 point improved shadow form, you're going to get pushed back a lot with your Mind Flays. Like, when you get pushed back with your Mind Flay here, you could potentially lose a tick at some point, and it just makes it for clunky gameplay when you're getting pushed back, as well as only having a 33% chance of Mind Flay refreshing. Now, if you're on a pure single target boss like Saurfang or Marrowgar or whatever, it's not really going to be a problem. But I tested this build once in a 10-man the Enlightenment build, and on bosses where I had to multi-dot, maybe like Lich King or Saurfang or Lady Deathwhisper, sometimes when I would return to the boss, it would have like 8 seconds left on it. And I would spam Mind Flay to refresh Shadow Word Pain, but it just didn't go through, and I had to manually refresh Shadow Word Pain, spend a whole global when I could have spent the global on another Mind Flay if I was running the normal build. It just felt weird. Now, I am going to try Enlightenment again, because when I did try it, I had less gear, and it wasn't as big of an increase. So, like, right when you get 4-piece, you shouldn't directly run Enlightenment, because it's only going to be, like, 60, 70 DPS increase. But the more gear you get, especially the more pieces you have that don't have Spirit on it, because you lose Twisted Faith, it's going to be a bigger DPS increase. So I'm going to try it again, but I'm not sure when. Yeah, that's pretty much sums up my UI. I showed my weak Rs, and I told you I don't really run with much, even during a boss fight, like boss fight weak Rs. I don't really run much of that. I kind of just use my brain. And one that you saw here that was popping up showing my MS delay, I have this on, but not during boss fights, because if I have it on during boss fight and I miss a lot, or I have a lot of delay or whatever, it's just going to tilt me. And it's also distracting, just staring at the bottom of my screen seeing how well I did. I only have it on for trash, but I only recently downloaded this as well. It's a good indicator to kind of practice, especially in game. But yeah, that pretty much kind of sums up my weak R and UI. So now on to ICC bosses. I'm just going to briefly go through each of these bosses because I don't want this video to be 10 hours long. Give some tips and tricks on how to do more damage. Give some insight on what I'm thinking during each boss fight and all that good stuff. So first start off with Marrowgar. Marrowgar is pretty much just luck. It's kind of like Patchwork where there's only one target, but there are some bone spikes. And you could be two kinds of people in this boss. You can be selfish and never touch a bone spike, which is really bad in my opinion. Or you can be a team player and hit as many bone spikes as you can. But there's a delicate balance between how much you should hit bone spikes, how much you should be hitting the boss. So here, let's kind of speed up the video a little bit. So, got the standard opener, you get some cold flame. Oh, another trick is, if you're standing directly in the middle, sometimes you won't have to move for quite a bit during cold flames. Like if you stand directly under him in the exact center of his hitbox, sometimes you don't have to hit. So, standard opener, kind of Patchwork right now. And, these 3 bone spikes are pretty spread out. Let's see what I do here. I think I mind seared a little bit, and mind sear is good if they're all really stacked up, but I think I mind sear here because I thought I could hit all three, which I think it did. So you can see I put a VT on this one because I noticed that it's not really getting as much damage, so I could get a couple ticks of VT off there. But the main reason we're all in melee is so, you know, warriors can cleave off it, Deathbringer can hit it all, that kind of thing. If you have bone spikes all the way out here all the time, it's just pretty much inefficient for the raid. So let's try to get one good example of 3 bone spikes all piled up. I forgot when it happens, but I'm pretty sure it does. Okay, Bone Storm, you know, he's going to bone spike during the Bone Storm. You know, they're all spread out here. So I VT all 3 and go back on the boss because they're getting focused really hard, and while VT is helping a little bit, I'm not purely focusing them. Let's just go back to outside of Bone Storm. There, that was perfect. Just saw a 3-sec Bone Storm. So this is a perfect example to mind sear because you're going to be hitting the boss, you're going to be hitting the 2 bone spikes, and it's kind of a good damage increase. So that's what I do here. And back on boss. So it's kind of just rinse and repeat. You need to make judgment calls on what bone spikes you should be hitting, what bone spikes you should be full focusing, especially during Bone Storm. You should be full focusing bone spikes during Bone Storm, especially if it's a healer or if it's just one single one outside in Africa. But yeah, that is Lord Marrowgar. Alright, so Lady Deathwhisper. It's another fight of just pretty much getting lucky, unfortunately, because of mind controls. But this fight is also kind of cringe because, especially for those people who just want to parse, you know, like funnel one person with parses each week. They have, you know, 6 ads at the beginning, come in 7 actually, and then 3 throughout the fight. So everyone here wants to do damage and kill the ads, so they all die super quick. As you can see here, you know, standard opener. Something I actually need to start doing is standing in the middle over here, so I can VT all 6 ads that come out, and then mind sear the boss. Right now I'm only doing 3, because it's just what I did on PTR. But if you're standing on the side, like I am, you know, VT these 3, and then you just mind sear the boss. You know, you can VT another one of these if you want, but then you just mind sear the boss, etc. Yeah, it's kind of rinse and repeat phase 1. And then I get mind controlled. Yeah, so if you get mind controlled, especially during lust, if you're lusting off the rip, your part's pretty much over. And, you know, I was tilted at first, the first 2 or 3 weeks if I got mind controlled, but now I'm just like, this fight's just kind of cringe. And I think it's going to get removed on Warcraft Logs anyways. But outside of mind controls, it's pretty standard. You know, don't kill you and your friends with ghosts. And, you know, kill ads ASAP. I'm going to skip to phase 2 because my usual spot is on the stage. I really like it because I don't have to move as much from over here. I usually VT all the ads as soon as they come out. Let's skip to when the new ads come out. Yeah, there we go. So, okay, we got the 3 ads. So I'm running up to VT them all. They're all VT'd. And if they're all stuck on the boss, I'll mind sear. And you can see here, I almost died because this person stood completely still and you know, just died. But Shadow Priests, I'm healing myself a fuck ton, and I just take 15% reduced damage. I'm kind of invincible. It's kind of OP, right? But yeah, unless you're parse following someone and just letting them kill the ads alone, then you're not going to do as much damage as, you know, the rank 1 or whatever, because that's what rank 1 does now. Best you can do now is VT all ads when they come out. If your raid leader calls a pure focus name, you should, by putting like a shadow paint on it if it's living too long, and then, you know, mind flaying it down, whatever, keeping your dots up on Lady Deathwhisper. Yeah, it's another super rinse and repeat fight after phase 2. Nothing really changing except, you know, moving from ghosts and all that. So I get mind controlled again here. You know, I'm just like, oh my god, it's ruined. But, you know, surely soon it's going to be removed. See, I VT all ads again. They're in. Mind sear, rinse and repeat. Alright, now we're on Deathbringer Saurfang. I skipped Gunship because who fucking cares? You know, fight's a joke. But I failed to mention this earlier, and there are kill videos of Marrowgar, Deathwhisper, Saurfang, Festergut, and Rotface on my channel. All rank 1 videos. If you want to go watch them, they're pretty cool. I do say so myself. So, Deathbringer Saurfang is pretty straightforward. It's kind of patchwork with some multi-dotting. So let's skip to the standard opener. Let's go skip to the first ads. Okay, first ads coming out. I'm gonna slow it down a little bit. If I know how to click on the computer. So first ads coming out. So what I do is I just tab target. So tab targeting will prio, it goes in order. It's gonna pick a target and then just go down the list until your last target, Saurfang, gets chosen. So I tab target first beast and then tab target 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now all ads have VT and I'm back on boss. So the reason I'm not hard focusing a beast right now is because in our splits, the non-multi-dotters focus a lot of focus single target on a lot of the beasts, and multi-dotting alone is good enough. And this is what our warlocks do. They just corruption all them as well. But I know if I notice that a beast sometimes is super high health going towards someone, let's see if I do it here. Like right here, I'm gonna hit it because I don't want them to die and then us to wipe or whatever. But another thing about killing beasts on this boss is spirit tap. So in the Shadowproof Talent tree, the first one, very top left, when you kill something that yields experience or honor, you get 100% bonus spirit. In my gear, that's 300 spell power. It's like a trinket product. You get 300 spell power for 15 seconds or whatever. So if you can manage a killing blow on one of these and get spirit tap, you get like an additional free trinket proc. So sometimes you'll see, if you watch my streams or it might be one of my kill videos, I'm not sure. But you can see me get a spirit tap by yoinking a killing blow, and that is pretty satisfying because it's just the DPS increase. And just rinse and repeat the rest of the fight. Like I said, patchwork, beasts come out, multi-dot, whatever. Alright, moving on to Festergut. Festergut's pretty much patchwork for Shadow Priest. Nothing really special. There's no multi-dotting, just pure single target. It's like a DPS race. It kind of is patchwork. It's a DPS race to beat the Berserk timer. So here, you just pick a spot, you stand it the whole fight. You do not have to do any spores because I'm just gonna skip to when Pungent Blight comes out. But yeah, you don't have to do any spores because you can just dispersion the Pungent Blight. So you can just stand still the whole fight. But another factor about Festergut is it's also kind of RNG, as most bosses in ICC are now. They're not all completely stand still and just kill the boss. It's whether you get picked by a mechanic or not, or they have to do a mechanic or not, that kind of thing. So if you get Vile Gas, it's kind of over. If you get Vile Gas once, it's not over if you're trying to parse, but if you get it multiple times, then you're kind of screwed. I think one week I got it 8 times in a row. 8 times Vile Gas on this boss. I was just so tilted. So Pungent Blight's come up in 10 seconds or so. Let's get back up to 2 times speed. So yeah, Pungent Blight's coming in 2 seconds. I have no stacks, as you can see here, but that's fine because I just dispersion, I take 0 damage, and I'm back to normal. And as you can see down here, most of this healing down here, probably 200k or so, is just healing myself because improved VE and Shadow Priest is good. Vile Gas, I'm pissed, whatever. So now on to Rotface. Again, kind of like Patchwork, a little bit of RNG. The RNG depends on whether you get mutate injection or not. I have to bring the ad over to the tank. So, a tip is if your tank tanks to where we are now and all the ranged DPS stand in this inner circle, you're never gonna have to move the whole fight from like the slime puddles that come from these valves. You can see here throughout the fight. I'll skip forward. So one's over there. Like these ranged DPS, they don't have to move. They're just standing there. You don't have to be in the complete outside. Let's skip to where it's behind me. Look, I'm getting stacks. I'm a little too close. But it doesn't matter because you're healing yourself through all the damage. Like, I healed myself for 19k in, I'm not sure the period, 3 or 4 seconds, 5 seconds? I healed myself for that much because of how much damage we're doing, and improved Vampiric Embrace, that talent. See, I didn't even move, and I'm not even close to dying because of how much I'm healing myself. So, I could have been a little further up to take absolutely 0 damage, but I was just a little too far back at that time. But, yeah, as you can see here, the caster next to me, If you get mutate injection, you have to run over the tank, obviously DPS loss and more NG, etc. Rinse and repeat this whole fight. I kind of almost died there. A little risky play because I was staying in the shit and taking Slime Spray. But Shadow Priest and OP and pretty tanky. So on to Putricide, one of the hardest bosses in this raid. Pretty mechanic heavy, but it's a really good fight for Shadow Priests. So off the rip, standard opener, we don't lust here. You can get PI if you're getting PI on the rip because, as you know, PI doesn't stack with lust. So you can just PI off the rip if you're not lusting off the rip. But if you're, getting PI and you're lusting off the rip, you're going to want to save PI until 45 seconds or whatever. Or even a minute if you want to pair it with gloves and potion. Up to you. So, just kind of patchwork till the first phase or till the first intermission. But when these ads come out, you're going to want to VT them and I Shadow Word Pain them because of our glyph where the target takes increased damage from Mind Flight if Shadow Word Pain is on a target. And you want the Ooze to die as fast as possible. So, you should put both of them on it and nuke it down. I keep Devouring Plague on the boss because the ad usually doesn't live as long for a full Devouring Plague, so it just gets better value on Perverse Putricide. So, you don't want to keep your dots refreshed as well on Putricide while you're killing the volatile oozes. You don't want them to fall off. That's going to be DPS loss. And so I get knocked there, whatever. Now we got intermission. So our strat is we kind of loosely stack up here. That way we can both kind of keep our dots up and hit the boss a little bit as well as hit the uses. So Shadow Priest is really good here, like I said, because we're multi-dotting. So keep your dots up on the boss. You don't want to keep DP up, Devouring Plague up on the boss in your intermission because you want that damage to go into the gas cloud or volatile ooze that you're hitting because you want that to die as fast as possible because intermission is pretty deadly, especially the last one. So, put your dots on the gas cloud or volatile ooze. Keep your dots up on Putricide. I should have Devouring Plague up here. I'm not sure why I don't, but little greedy there. I didn't want to get knocked back to lose DPS. Sometimes you can do that if there's enough melee to soak. You can do that because it's not going to be very deadly if all the melee are soaking. And there, I put Devouring Plague up on it after it fell off the Putricide. But like I said, my dots are still up there. My VT is still running. My Shadow Word Pain is still up there. My dots around here are killing this. And then Gas Cloud's dead, so now we're back here. So pretty much phase 1 again, patchwork. Let's skip across, dodge malleable goos. So we bring it over there and just, like I said, phase 1. Keep everything on Putricide, only Vampiric Touch and, oh, I get picked here. Only Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain, sorry, on the other ad. I get picked here, so you try to min-max your movement. I'm keeping both dots up and while dots on Putricide while kiting. And I could have boots there as well, but I realized that it's probably going to die before I really need a boot, so I'm saving boots for another emergency. So you can see there, I kept all my dots up while keeping dots up there, while kiting. That's pretty tough to do. But, the more you practice with multi-dotting, the more you can do it. So, now we have green ooze. It picked me unlucky, very unlucky, because I was in a really bad spot by creating a little bit of uptime. I wish it picked one of these range or melee, but it's fine because all the melee are going to help me soak anyways. I dispersion just in case it's going to do a lot of damage, which it didn't, and I kind of needed the mana anyways. Like I mentioned earlier, this fight is kind of sus on mana because you're not hitting Mind Blast to give yourself replenishment 24/7, so be aware of that, especially in a run where your only replenishment source reliably is a ret. Like in this split here, our ret is our only reliable source of replenishment. We have a marksmanship hunter. We don't have a second hunter, so the only source of replenishment are him and me. And since I'm not really mind blasting as much, I'm not getting enough mana. The other DPS aren't getting enough mana, and the healers aren't getting enough mana. So keep your comps in mind as well if you are going to skip mind blast entirely. So yeah. My dots are up, rinse repeat until intermission. Same thing for the next intermission. These puddles are really bad. So keep dots up on here, keep dots up on Putricide. So as you can see, I had all 3 dots up. on the ooze I'm killing. I dots up on Putricide. You can see I'm doing a lot of damage. And, you know, intermission the same as the first, just kill the 2 guys, and then, you know, we all sack up. Slimes are kind of fucked, so we had to adjust our positioning. Usually he's tanked on the other side over there, but our puddles were kind of screwed up. So, you know, patchwork, burn until last phase, dodge the ooze, all the range should be stacked, etc. Alright, on to Valithria. I skipped Bloodwing just because it's the way my VOD went. I'm just going through my VOD right now. So, Valithria, I always heal Valithria just because I get cucked. But there's, you know, Valithria doesn't count anyways. And if I was DPSing outside as a Shadow Priest, just dodge as much shit as you can. Mind Sear the Rotworms. If you're trying to pad, whatever. But healing, yeah, I usually play Holy just to GS the boss. Nothing special there. Not going to go too much over it because it's not Shadow. Sindragosa. Let's skip to Sindragosa. Oh, we skipped Sindragosa to go back to Bloodwing. Okay, so we're going to go to Blood Prince Council. Blood Prince Council, pretty hectic fight. I like it because of how hectic it is. I like hectic fights. I'm crazy. Like, people don't like Sindragosa, but I kind of like Sindragosa. Except the fact that it's RNG to parse on with Unchained Magic. But I like it because you can cheese it as a Shadow Priest. So, you know, your raid has particular spots your range go to. I went to my spot. And I don't really have to be on orbs because you have a lot of warlocks and a hunter. So they just send their pets on all the orbs. I don't have to touch them. But in case of emergencies, you should Shadow Word Death or Mind Blast the kinetic bomb. Sorry. The warlocks and hunters on the kinetic bombs. So Mind Flay doesn't work on it. Instant Devouring Plague doesn't work on it because those aren't direct damage. It needs direct damage, which is kind of confusing, but Mind Blast and Shadow Death fall into that category. So if you ever need to help a, you know, kinetic bomb kiter or whatever you want to call them with an orb, just Shadow or Death it or Mind Blast it. So kind of patchwork a little bit, but a tip here is that when it goes on Tal'Daram next, let's go skip to when it goes to Tal'Daram. You can stand by yourself. If you're, you know, if your raid is calling for people to soak the orb, you know, goes through the range to soak, you don't have to. A lot of range are grieving here by not stacking. They should be stacking to help soak, because you know, as a Shadow Priest, you can stand by yourself. If the Empowered Flame Orb goes on you, then you can just stand still and dispersion it. I don't think it happens here. It does not. But yeah, you know, if no one was around me and I'm completely by myself, I'm going to run back a little bit, dispersion, and that completely eliminates the mechanic. It's DPS increase because you never have to move, and you're kind of helping your raid as well by not putting any stress on them with the kind of bomb. Just don't whiff the dispersion, because if you don't dispersion or it's on cooldown or whatever, you're just dead, right? You know, be careful of that. So that is Blood Prince Castle. So now on to Blood Queen. Blood Queen is pretty much another patchwork, but Shadow Priests are really good here because of their self and group healing, especially if you have Vampiric Embrace. 2 out of 2 talented. Another cringe thing about this boss to parse on is, you know, since it's normalized on Warcraft Logs, the bite damage that is, 100% increased bite damage, the parse strat is to just never get bit, so you never have to move and bite someone else. Very cringe, very dumb, very selfish, especially as a Shadow Priest when you can heal yourself and your group so much. You're wasting so much value by not having your Shadow Priest bitten. But it is what it is. The cringe parsers will be cringe parsers. So yeah, you know, make sure you field yourself to master spell your group, etc. You know, it's patchwork. You can see I'm skipping across. I'm standing still almost the whole video. Unless you get swarming shadows, you know, take it to the edge, whatever, like this Boomkin did. So let me speed up the video a little bit. Insight Terror is going to come soon. Blah, blah, blah. You know, master spell your group. And make sure you're spread. You know, I'm not telling you how to do the boss, but no real Shadow Priest tips here. Look how much healing I'm doing without the bites. I get bit soon, though. by this mage, I think. Yep, there it is. So refresh your Shadow Word Pain as soon as you get bit, because the damage modifier of 100%, it's not going to automatically update for you. It only updates on spell power with Mindflay, so you need to manually press Shadow Word Pain again on the boss to refresh it to get so it does 100% increased damage. What I usually do is, if the dots are a really low timer, I let them expire and then reapply my dots with 100%. But if I just refresh my dots and I just get bitten, then I'm just going to override them, because 100% increased damage on fresh dots is going to do more than waiting out the 10 seconds without the 100% increased damage. But yeah, let's skip to the end of the fight, see how much healing I'm doing with 100% increased damage. So this person dies because they just weren't healed, so I just take their place, although I should have just moved. I usually would move back over there. Like I said, that's a lot of uptime, or a lot of uptime loss, losing DPS by having to move over here, so that's why the cringe top parsers don't get bitten, especially the Shadow Priest is dumb. So boss is almost dead. Look how much healing I'm doing. I'm going over 4,000 HPS as a Shadow Priest, as a DPS. Keeping my group up, very healthy. If you watch through my VOD a little more, you can see like the exact, what I'm trying to say. If I mind boss on the boss, you can see their health spike up a little bit, so it's kind of cool to see that. Alright, on to Sindragosa. So Sindragosa, another cringe fight to parse on, because it's entirely dependent on how many Unchained magics you get. Even as a Shadow Priest, when you can cheese it, it's entirely dependent, because you still have to stop casting at some point. You still have to maybe run out. You still have to run out of your raid and lose uptime. But it's probably gonna get removed, so you don't have to worry about it too much. Worry about parsing on Sindragosa too much. So let's watch it a little bit here. So I get Unchained. I'm still standing in the raid. I'm not moving out. And you might be panicking, but you gotta strategically plan. So I now have 7 stacks. I don't want to blow anyone up. They boots away. I was gonna boot away, but I'm running away anyways, dispersioning just in case. I don't want to hurt anybody. And then another thing I completely forgot about is, as you can see, I don't really have many weak Rs on my screen. I have my dot timers. When I say weak Rs for boss fights, I mean like mechanic weak Rs. As in, a bunch of timers, a bunch of random shit on my screen that I see people have. I just think it's clutter. I think it's dumb. Use your brain. Don't have weak Rs play the game for you. But that's just how some people do, and that's my opinion. Sorry if it offends you, but it is what it is. I have DPM for timers. They're usually pretty good. I like to use my brain when I'm playing, and kind of based, but I don't really get Unchained in this fight that much. Looks like I only got it that one time, but I think I do get it in the last phase here, and that's kind of what I wanted to show as well. So I get Unchained right at 35%. So something I saw that I could do is that, since the tail isn't working, because Blizzard is a $5 company, and I get Unchained in the last phase, Unchained in the last phase is pretty deadly, I go to Complete Africa and get, to be completely by myself. So, I'm getting Mystic Buffet stacks. I'm taking a lot of damage, but it doesn't matter. Look how much my health just doesn't move, even with stacks, even with the Frost Star ticking. Look how I'm completely by myself. You keep yourself up, and this is just in case your plan goes a bit wrong and you blow up. You're by yourself. If you don't hit dispersion, you're dead. But you obviously need to hit dispersion when you're cheesing with completely high stacks as a Shadow Priest. I guess I forgot to mention that the general cheese strat of Shadow Priest is just go to infinite stacks and dispersion. But the main thing is watch the pull-in timer and don't blow up your raid. If you still have the Unchained debuff right here, and you're walking out of the pull-in, you can spam Devouring Plague to refresh it. You can hit Shadow Word Pain, or not Shadow Word Pain, Shadow Word Death, and delay it until you completely by yourself where you can dispersion. But don't blow up your raid and troll, which I actually did 1 or 2 weeks ago, and I felt really bad about it. But yeah, I am still keeping myself up and pretty healthy, and I have 18 sacks, and I dispersion, and I'm completely by myself. But now I need to go clear my sacks, right? I need to actually play the game. I'm getting kind of sus here, sus on health, but healers keep me up, which I appreciate. I clear my sacks, I'm back on boss, and you should be multi-dotting the tombs. I'm not sure why I didn't there. I did here, I did on this one, but I didn't do it on that one. But you should be multi-dotting the tombs and help your friends. Focus them if they're not being focused. You need to make a judgment call again. A lot of playing this game is making judgment calls. If it looks like it's being focused and his health is going down really quickly, you don't need to focus as much, right? But just keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on boss health, your dots, etc. Keep your dots up while being on an ice tomb or focusing an ice tomb on Sindragosa, etc. And yeah, I only got 2 unchains that fight, which is pretty good. Pretty good, but not quite as good as 0. And that is Sindragosa. And finally, Lich King. So, I love this fight. It's great. I don't know what to say about it. It's a long-ass fight, right? So you get 2 lusts off the rip, and sometime in phase 3, whenever your guild wants to do it. But it's phase 1's pretty boring. Just don't hit a shadow trap. But let me skip ahead to what I do to get a little more uptime, because you're a shadow priest. So if you have a 2 sacks to melee and ranged, you can go by yourself and cheat towards the middle, like I'm doing here. We're almost phasing, and I'll show you the reason here. So, usually they want us to stay stacked up, but I'm completely by myself. And you know why? Because he's going to run to the middle in just a second, completely refresh your dots, and dispersion out of there. So you get mana regen as well as dot refreshing for maximum damage. So, back to phase 2. What I do to help out the guild, it's completely up to how many people you put on the orbs or not, is I usually VT each ice sphere, because it's like blood beasts. Look, I got it right here. If you get a killing blow on the ice spheres, you get spirit tap, which is again like a 300 spell power, and that's like a couple hundred DPS increase for 15 seconds. Yeah, 15 seconds with spirit tap. So I VT mainly to get spirit tap, but also because sometimes we struggle on ice spheres, and you can see sometimes I even mind flay them because they just need to die, right? This fight is so long and pretty tough that you just don't want to wipe and do it again. So being a team player here is definitely important. So let's go to phase 2. So I'll go through each situation here. We got 2 Valks. So I got a Warlock picked, right? Keep your dots up on Lich King, VT and Shadow Word Pain, both Valkyr, and then hard focus the Valkyr, whichever one's higher, whichever one they're calling for, etc. But keep your dots up on Lich King. Don't super hard focus him. See, I'll let my dots fall on Lich King completely because these Valkyrie needed to die. That happens. I could have easily just put a casted Mind Flay on Lich King to keep up my Shadow Word Pain, but I was focused on killing the Valks, and the file was up pretty close, so shit happens. And let's skip to the next Valkyr. So I think we get 3 here. Yeah, 3. So let's see here. So I VT all 3, and usually you don't have to move. You only really need to VT all 3 if they're all stacked, because they're all getting super AoE'd. But depending on how good your guild DPS is, you might have to Shadow Word Pain them all. I Shadow Word Pain them here because I was moving. I only did it because I was moving. I wouldn't normally do it. But what you do is you VT all 3, and then the tank should be dragging the Lich King with the Valkyr. And the reason for that is, there we go, he puts it on them now. You Mind Sear the Lich King. So Mind Sear is hitting all 3 targets with VT up. See, I'm refreshing VT on all of them. And I only got 1 Mind Sear off because of the Defile movement. That was a really bad Defile by that person. Let's see if I get another 3 here. I do. So I VT all 3. This one didn't get a stun. We're playing really bad here. But I still Mind Sear because they're kind of all in range. Now I'm single targeting them because they're just split up. This is kind of a bad kill. We had some people who were really paying attention. Again, 2. VT and Shadow Word Pain them. So so let's see. We got 3 sec here. 3 sec. So VT them all. That's a good example. And now I'm channeling Mindseer. Now I'm channeling Mindseer on the Lich King. And that is a lot of damage. And then refresh when they're falling off, right? This one goes all the way by themselves. But it's almost dead, and I realized that. So I only dot up these and manually Mind Flay them down. So same thing for here. While everyone else is going to the edge, you can just chill in the middle, near the middle. Refresh your dots and dispersion out. Get that mana back, because it's a long fight. You're gonna need mana. And then, you know, kill the Raging Spirits. Still help the Ice Spheres because they spawn even quicker. Yep, and then phase 3. He pulls us in. So you can do 2 things here. You can either be a Parse Lord, or you can just be completely focused on where you're going. You can do both, right? But it's tough. So what I do here, when I mention parsing, is you target a spirit and you Mindseer them, because these spirits do need to die. It's not like, you know, you're being a complete parse cringe lord. They need to die because they come at you, right? But you target one. I could figure out a better camera angle here to target them better, but right now I just have it top down and target my nameplates. So I see a wicked spirit and I usually Mindseer them. But if they're all alone, I just Devouring Plague them, because it's instant damage and they have royal health. They only have like 8k. Yeah, they have 8k. So if they're already half health and you Devouring Plague, that should kill them. Well, that also grants you a Spirit Tap, so you're getting mana regen as well while you're in Frostmourne if you're getting killing blows in these things. So you can see here I'm Mindseering, which kills them. These do count on logs, so if you have a lot of people in here killing spirits, you're not going to get as much damage. But if you're a Parse Cringe Lord, like I've seen some logs, where there's only one person doing damage on these, then, you know, that's going to affect Parse. But I already mentioned cringe a lot, and there's already cringe going on in these bosses. So yeah, kill these Raging Spirits ASAP, right? Any specific Shadow Priest tips? You know, if your guild calls you to soak, you know, we go down in Frostmourne again, same thing. You know, Shadow Priest is really good for soaking. The tank called that he was going to soak here, so he did. But when they're all grouped up, let's go to an example when they're all grouped up. Let's get out of Frostmourne. Okay, they're all, so earlier in the video they were all grouped up, you know, or you know, you have an Earth Belly on it, army, whatever. Then, you know, dispersion, go soak, or if they call for it to go soak as a Shadow Priest, then you should, right? Just kind of comes down to what you want to. But yeah, Shadow Priest is really good if, you know, the tank can't do it. Like you can see here, I just dispersion to help soak because they were all pretty clumped up. Since dispersion is only 6 seconds, it is kind of sus to soak if they're all spread out, because if your dispersion runs out and there's still 1 or 2 more spirits and you didn't time it right, then you're just dead. So you need to be careful there. We had to make that mage soak help soak as well. And rinse and repeat. Nothing really left special on this boss. But yeah, I did kind of go in depth on each boss, but I probably can do a little more if you ask for it. That was Lich King, and that's all I'm going to do for ICC. So last thing I want to talk about is, I mentioned earlier the Shadow Priest Analyzer, and I was going through some of my gear and as well as the sim. So just going through Wowhead, you know, Wowhead pretty stereotypical. I have not agreed with the BiS list from Wowhead from the first 3 phases, but the BiS list for phase 4 is accurate because there's really no other alternatives. For example, in TOGC, I made my own BiS list where you use the Bar of Tarask as Horde, and everyone else was using that mace, Suffering's End or whatever. But the DPS set I made was more DPS than the mace set. The dagger set I was using was better. So anyways, just, you know, like I said, the Wowhead BiS list for Shadow Priest is, you know, perfectly fine. Because like I said, there's really no other option. You know, you want tier from head, shoulders, chest, and gloves. Your off piece is pants because they have hit, crit, spell power, and you want haste. Like I said, haste is better than crit, so your off piece is going to be this. Now hit, crit, spell power is on the gloves, but they have less stats than legs, right? You know, there are certain items that have more stats than others, like chests have more stats than a shoulder piece. You can see here 369 armor, 27 armor, 195 spell power, 150 spell power, right? So you're going to want to go with the strongest off piece that has haste, which is this one, and hit. So as I was saying, you want 4-piece, you want the best neck from Blood Queen. Like I said, there's really no other options here. I tried to mess around with getting a better BiS, but there really isn't. Yeah, I pretty much agree with the BiS here. As you can see, I was mentioning gems earlier. This is a 9 spell power bonus, so you're going to want to socket the blue. This is only 5 spell power, so you just socket a red. Excuse me. This is 5 spell power, but it's yellow. So you can socket in a Reckless Ametrine for spell power and haste, because haste is still really good. Same thing here, 5 spell power, but it's yellow, etc., etc. Yeah, in the ring, you only have a 5 spell power blue, and like I said, you don't want to put a purified in there because it's just going to be less efficient than just a pure spell power. But that is pretty much BiS list. I could go through the BiS list in depth, but that could be another video if you want it. I'm not going to. Onto the Shadow Priest Analyzer. So, this is my current gear. I have sets. My phase 3 was, I can show you here. This was my phase 3. This is my dagger set, TLGC. Everyone else had Suffering's End, but I had the Barb of Trask. This is my current gear. This is my clone alt called Junior. And, phase 4 BiS, phase 5 BiS. So currently, I'll show you an example. I'm simming at 14.6k in my current gear. This is at 3 minutes with a 20-second over-under duration. I have 50 ms clip delay, which is usually about how I play. I'm usually around 50 ms, if not lower. I think the lowest I've ever done is 43 or something like that, and I'll show you that later. I'm usually around 50, so that's realistic. I could do 0, but that's not super realistic, so I played at 50. My Demonic Pact is at 580 because that's usually around what ours is. I'm not sure it's at 600 yet. I don't think we're at that gear level. But yeah, the settings are here. I'm a troll, blah blah blah. Talents, I'm running, the one I just showed you. I can show you Enlightenment here. So I'm gonna show you that it is a DPS increase on a pure patchwork fight. This isn't accounting pushback. This isn't accounting having to do mechanics. This isn't accounting the fact that your Shadow Word Pain might drop because you have 2 multi-dots. So in pure single target like Deathbringer Saurfang, Marrowgar, Festergut, Rotface, minus Festergut actually, take out Festergut. So Festergut does not count because of the pushback. It's going to be almost 200 DPS increase. In your BiS, when you put on the BiS and sim it, it's like 250 DPS increase. So the reason I mentioned Festergut and fights like Blood Queen Lana'thel are bad because of pushback. Like I mentioned this earlier, but you're going to have pushback because you only have 1 out of 2. You have 35% from improved shadow form, 1 out of 2, when normally you have 2 out of 2. And Conch is like 30%, so that's 100% right there. But with 35% and only 30 or 35% with Conch, you're not at 100%, and that could be ticks lost. It's going to feel clunky, and you're going to get some DPS loss. And I mentioned earlier, you only have a 33% chance to refresh Shadow Word Pain. That's going to feel really bad on multi-dot fights like Putricide, Lady Deathwhisper, even Lich King. But you never want to run the spec on Lich King. And I'll get to that. But yeah, having to manually press your Shadow Word Pain again just because it fell off and you didn't get lucky, it just sucks. But it's a risky build to play. It can pay off, but that needs to be with your own judgment. If you're going to go for a parse run or whatever, it's entirely up to you. Like I said, this is the set I run. This was before 4 set. But yeah, rotation. Mind Blast isn't in the rotation. I precast Vampire Touch. Sometimes I actually precast Mind Blast, but it's like a 30 DPS difference if you we can just test it here actually. It's not that much of a difference between what you precast, but it does make a little bit of difference. And so, you know, ideally I Shadow Fiend off the rip. We get Bloodlust in 1 second, and you know, you want your Shadow Fiend lusted, right? So it comes out before Bloodlust. Berserk Ring paired with Lust, you know, etc., etc. So precasting Mind Blast instead of Vampiric Touch was only 43 DPS, which is, you know, decent amount, but it's not going to make or break a fight's parse, especially if there are mechanics like Putricide. But yeah, that is my analyzer, or sorry, sim, and onto the analyzer. So this is what you can see here if you want to see how well you're doing. So I have Deathbringer Saurfang on the screen. This is really, really good. I didn't get any early Mindflate clips. I didn't get any clip dots. My average MS delay is 53 MS, which is what I showed you on the analyzer. It's around 50, right? But I don't always play perfectly like this. Like, this is a really good example. If I go to something like Festergut, you know, I played kind of bad there. Oh wait, I actually didn't. I still had some Mindflate clips. I still had a really good delay. I didn't have any clip dots. But there was one fight where I didn't do very well. Let's see here. I think it might be Lana'thel. Lana'thel is always kind of a bitch because of her pushback. If you're not in range of Konkara. But yeah, I still clip my Mindflate early on some bosses because it's mostly greed, and it could also be having to move for a mechanic as well. You could also, some of these could just be you had to move for a mechanic. But you can see my Mindflate delay is usually pretty good. It's pretty low. There are some fights you can't really trust the analyzer on, kind of like Sindragosa with the airtime, and I assume Lich King with so many ads and how long the fight is, etc. Sometimes they do, but this usually is pretty accurate. Word Marrowgar is still pretty decent. So I'm going to put on the screen now an example of what you don't want to see in your analyzer. So this person, they still had pretty good Mindflate delay. It's pretty low, but they have a ton of early Mindflate clips, a ton of clipped dots, and that is just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of DPS you're losing out on and just putting on the table. That is what you want to avoid. You can use this analyzer to see where you went wrong, especially if you recorded yourself or you streamed. You can go back in your VOD and see where you screwed up. So for example, I clipped early Mindflate early twice here. So I can see, I can go down here, you know, I can go to a Mindflate, oh, it's red. The delay is pretty bad here. I didn't clip it, but the delay is pretty bad. I go to a Mindflate somewhere down here. I only have 2. Here it is, 2 out of 3 hits. This was an early clip. 547 MS is almost there. Like, I clipped my Mindflate right before the tick was about to go out. And that's just a DPS loss, right? 547 MS is really bad. Clipped early, true, as you can see right there. But yeah, that's what you want to avoid generally. But yeah, that pretty much sums up this video. So I hope you liked my first ever informational video about Shadow Priest. If you want to see more, or if you want to see something different, you know, make sure you're putting something in the comments below. Leave a like, you know, all that YouTube lingo, etc. I am in the Shadow Priest Classic Discord. You can at me, or, you know, DM me or whatever. Some questions. I'll try my best to answer them, but no promises. The gameplay I'm doing right here is pretty bad, but I promise I'm good. I promise. Anyways, yeah. So thanks for watching, and you know, maybe I'll do some more of this in the future if you like it. If not, then fuck me, I guess. Anyways, see ya.